means that the number one pick in the 2021 NBA draft goes to the Detroit Pistons.
Who's got the number one pick in this year's draft? Who's got the number one pick in this year's draft?
Basketball!
Select Isaiah Stewart.
The Detroit Pistons select Killian Hayes.
Saddiq, that was absolutely sensational.
I don't know what went into that process. I met the criteria to be selected, but I wasn't.
From long range. Oh! Yes!
Detroit basketball! Pistons fans, welcome back to another edition of the Palace of Pistons Podcast, part of the Believe Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mike Anguilano, and joining me, as always, are my good friends, Aaron Johnson and Jasper Apollonia. How are you two doing, fellas?
Was I a good friend until Jasper joined the show? I haven't been addressed that by you until he joined.
I think I've said, how are you doing, my friend? And I've said, but how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I just feel like this one had a little bit more significance to it, and because of that, I'm doing a little extra well today. Okay, let's get it going.
I love it. I'm doing great myself. Still celebrating that wonderful Italy win yesterday in the World Cup. It's coming to Rome, baby. Yeah, come on, man. Let's Team USA is falling apart, but Italy's on the rise. So, it's not all bad. And I have two great friends, Aaron Johnson and Mike Anguilano.
There we go. Excellent. Excellent.
We love Italy here.
We do love Italy. Did anybody do any betting for the Euro Cup?
Dude, I'm always betting now. I am always betting. Okay,
Aaron, why are you always betting?
Before we got on the show, I put my life savings on Shohei to win the Derby. All right, I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing pretty well on the betting.
Wow.
You degenerate.
Aaron, you put a whole $50 on Shohei to win.
Wow. A lot of confidence from a guy that this is his second week on the show. A lot of confidence.
Also,
well, you know what?
He called you a good friend.
Yeah.
And then just threw you over the stick.
Look, man, you can't blame me for being confident. I just took out a third mortgage on my mom's house to place on Italy yesterday. So I'm riding high right now. I got into a verbal confrontation with Rudy Giuliani's son. It's all good. It's all positive. That's what it's all about.
We're gonna be sponsored by How to Quit Betting number by the end of this tenure that we have here. We're gonna have a betting help hotline as our new sponsor. But
all the bets,
and you can do all of the bets and more with Bet Online. July is underway, and it's a great month for sports. That's very, very true. The Open Championship, it's open week. If you're into sports betting, Bet Online is where you can find all of your sports bets, from the NBA to the hockey playoffs, which are over thanks to the Tampa Bay Lightning going back-to-back. Baseball's marquee matchups, like Aaron said, with Shohei Ohtani. In the home run derby, you get prop bets, futures. BetOnline has all the latest odds, news, and information for all your online sports betting needs. So visit the website today or use your mobile device to join, and you receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That has come in clutch for many people. So before the next tip-off, face-off, or pitch, head on over to BetOnline and start playing today. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Aaron, it's open week. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, so I went. This is where I lost some money, but I went on the John Deere Classic final day, Sunday. I hedged pretty hard. I gave myself 3 different guys, and I came up short. I did not pick the right guy. I picked Kevin Na. I picked the guy that was in first. Who was it going into Sunday? He'd been like the leader all week, and then I picked one other guy, and neither of them got the job done. But hey, a new week of golf, a new opportunity. All right, so I'm still doing my research. I really like Jordan Spieth. Not that I think he's going to win. I enjoy watching him golf. Kind of reminds me of the way that he just kind of throws his club around after a bad shot. Might have to toss some money on him just out of respect for how angry we get on bad golf shots. But the Open, it's another opportunity to get out there and bet. All for it. Absolutely.
The fescue, Aaron, the fescue. That's one of my favorite words that I've learned from watching the Open Championship is fescue. And it's that horrible tall grass that really I get into almost like a magnet that you can't get out of. And then you end up having to take a stroke. But the Open will certainly have plenty of that being a public course. It's going to be messy. That makes honestly, that makes any bet just a little bit more scary, but a lot more fun.
I'm all for it, man. You know me. I for like the last month, I've been a full-time gambler, so I'm all for it.
Oh, Lord. Okay. Like I said earlier, we're going to be having some bet help sponsors soon.
That's all right, man. Mike, hey, look, for better or worse, the Palace of Pistons podcast budget is either going to dramatically go up or stay at the exact same level as it is right now. So
yep, our $4 budget.
We're playing with house money, Aaron's money, but still house money.
Right. Perfect. You know, I think I'm good with that. I think I'm good with that. You know what I'm not good with is continued talk about Cade Cunningham not going to the Detroit Pistons. And I said this last week, we're going to keep having this conversation. We're going to keep talking about it until the draft happens. We are officially at, can we get the draft here right now point, because I'm really tired of looking at just the endless, baseless speculation of who's going to go number one and how the Rockets are going to give up like Cheez-Its and gum and the number 2 pick to get Cade Cunningham. But according to The Athletic, the Rockets are fixated on getting Cade Cunningham, but they don't believe in offering up to Detroit what it would take to move into the top spot, which begs the question of why even talk about it? So, Aaron, we've already hashed this over. Should the Pistons even be open for business with the number 1 overall pick?
I feel like that was a shot at me picking this as a topic. Like, why?
No. It's meant to stir the pot by, you know, the NBA community. It's worth talking about. I mean, my next question, we could even skip to that one, is you know, what could Houston put together that would entice you enough?
That's kind of where
the top pick.
Go with this. I kind of wanted to go with, what is it going to take from Houston to get the number 1 pick? And I think you look at players, you look at assets that they have. Obviously, Kevin Porter Jr. and Christian Wood, who probably should still be a Detroit Piston, but we've already talked about that a lot on this show, and I've already talked about that a lot on my channels. Well, those are obviously the 2 guys that matter the most in terms of player assets. I mean,
Jayshawn Tate.
I still go back to, like, does Christian Wood and 4 first-round picks or the number 2 pick or whatever – the number 2 pick and then 3 more first round picks, like, do you do that? Like, that's obviously a lot of draft capital, and the Rockets are probably going to be pretty bad for the time being. Like, you've at least got 2-3 years until they're on the verge of maybe competing for the playoffs. Like, what they're doing, this rebuild that they're in, is very new. So let's say Troy Weaver really, really, really likes Jalen Green, and he can get Jalen Green and 3 first-round picks down the line, whether it's one next year or, you know, they're every other year. Does that intrigue you a little bit? I mean, considering that they could be decent positioned picks?
That doesn't intrigue me, and here's why. I'm interested in if you can put together something like 2nd pick, 3rd pick in this year's draft, I'll think about that. I'll really think about that. But the reason why I'm not interested in something like number 2 and 3 other first rounders is for the same reason I don't think that Boston, the Celtics, necessarily did a good job with their draft capital. Things change quickly in the NBA. A team that might look hopeless today could be a title contender tomorrow. We just saw it with the Nets over a 2-year span, basically. They were awful. And then they have KD, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving all on the same team. I'm not interested in looking towards the future. For me, that feels like a very, unfortunately, Detroit sports fan thing to do. And I don't mean to throw every Detroit sports fan under the bus, but there's so much of it I see with like the Tigers, for example, where it's, well, just wait. Oh, just wait till this guy comes up and just wait till this. Look at the farm system. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in winning games right now. I'm interested in putting the best team on the floor that you can possibly put onto the floor today, because nothing is for certain. And what might be, a high lottery pick right now, in 2 years could be garbage. I'm not trying to see, maybe I get Imani Bates next year. Or maybe I'm drafting the next, Aaron Nesmith. Like, look, this is not where the franchise needs to go. This franchise needs certainty. This franchise needs solidity. This franchise needs a franchise player. And Cade Cunningham is that. I'm not passing up a franchise player for the potential of another franchise player. That to me seems like nonsense.
I'll play. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Aaron.
The one other thing I wanted to say is the other thing about this that I wanted to talk about within this is you keep hearing all these teams are in love with Cade Cunningham. They're trying to trade up for Cade Cunningham. And then you hear the other side of how the Pistons, who actually have the pick, are enamored with Jalen Green and like Evan Mobley and are willing to trade the pick. And it's just like, maybe they're just, talking that talk to drum up trade interest to see if they can get that Godfather offer. But what does it say when literally every team standing behind you in the draft order is trying to move up to 1? Like, how obvious does that make it? That you just need to stop the talk, make the pick, and let's move on.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was getting at too. It's like, if everyone's going after Cade Cunningham, obviously there's something about Cade Cunningham that they all are lusting after. But the Pistons are a little bit further ahead. I mean, let's be honest. They're closer to making the playoffs than the Rockets are. I think you could make an argument they're closer to making the playoffs than maybe even the Cavaliers are. They're definitely closer to making the playoffs than the Oklahoma City Thunder are. And it kind of comes back to goals as well. I think there is a case to be made that Jalen Green and Evan Mobley are those building block, build your team around best player on a championship team type of guys. Definitely Jalen Green, maybe less so with Evan Mobley. But I think the scoring potential of Jalen Green does propel him, or at least give him the chance to be that unstoppable type of bucket getter, because he just is crafty. He's young. He's wiry, but thin guys, being thin has never been a reason to not draft somebody. You can put on weight, and Evan Mobley is going to have to do the same thing. I think that Jalen Green and multiple first-round picks that you could put together to get another win-now piece and package them together, I mean, that's a playoff team, and maybe that's enticing. I don't think I would do that. I think I would get Cade Cunningham and have a very good team for many, many years, because you've done so well to build this core. But that's kind of the luxury that the Pistons have put themselves in by having such a good tank job. They've given themselves good young pieces. They've given themselves some cap flexibility moving forward. And they drafted well, and now you get the number 1 pick. I mean, you have some flexibility to kind of pivot if you wanted to do that thing. And we know that Tom Gores can get in his own way and do that. He wants to make the playoffs, whether it was the 8 seed and sweeping out or not. I think that you can make a case that Houston could put together a big package of picks. I don't have their draft picks up here. They might not even have the picks to make that happen because of all the other trades they've had to make the last several years. But overall, I mean, Jalen Green's pretty good. I mean, he's pretty darn good.
So is Evan Mobley. I don't see why. And that's why I said, like, if you're going to give me 2 and 3, I'll think about that for sure. Because, well, heck, just look at the NBA Finals right now. Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. That's a pretty good combination, isn't it? And I think there's no reason that, of course, they're very different players. But I think if you put Suggs and Mobley together on a team, I think that's a great combination of styles as well. Right there. 2 guys with like a lot of upside. And I think Jalen Green can do the things that maybe Evan Mobley can't do super well. He can do them at a really high level. And Mobley can do the things that Jalen Green doesn't do very well at a very high level. So I think that'd be a great combination right there. And I think one of the things that's also being kind of forgotten about in this discussion is that the Pistons are no lock to make the playoffs next year. Not even close. So there's no reason the Pistons can't be back in the lottery next season, making another top 5 pick, top 7 pick, whatever it may be, depending on how the lottery goes. And you're talking about getting in an absolutely loaded draft next season. Loaded draft. You could potentially be getting a great player there as well. So for me, I'd rather just take the guy that's the sure thing, or, you give me 2 guys that have the potential to be franchise players themselves, but it's a little less of a certainty than it is with Cade.
Yeah, I'm all in on just let's keep it simple. You take the guy that you just absolutely should be taken, and you don't need to get cute with it. You don't need to get cute when you win the lottery. When you get the number 1 pick for the first time since, 1970, this is a no-brainer for Detroit. And I really hope this is the last week that we have to talk about something like this, but you continue to hear all these different names brought up, and you hear the Houston Rockets, and before it was like the Cavs, the Thunder, the Pelicans, and where is that piece that's just like, after all the talk, the Pistons are still all in on Cade Cunningham. Yeah, they're going to continue to listen to trade offers, but if the draft was today, they're taking Cade Cunningham. And we haven't gotten that yet. So I think the speculation, as annoying as it is, it still deserves its a spot at the top of the news cycle, because we haven't gotten that type of article yet. We haven't gotten that type of report yet. But at the end of the day, I just really don't see how the Pistons deviate from the path that leads to Cade Cunningham with the Pistons.
Aaron, I'm going to say this right now. I don't think you're ever going to get an article like that with Troy Weaver as your general manager, because that guy is not going to show you his hand when he's playing poker. That's how I look at it. Like, he's always going to be looking for an edge. He's always going to be looking for a potential trade. He's always going to be looking for that hidden gem. For me, I really would be surprised if you ever saw an article that really laid out exactly what Troy Weaver's plan is while he's the GM in Detroit. It just doesn't seem like his personality and his modus operandi.
So this is probably a conversation for after the Pistons draft Cade Cunningham, but Jasper, you said they're nowhere near making the playoffs.
I think they're not a sure thing. That's what I would say.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. I was going to say, I mean, Cade could have that LaMelo factor, because Charlotte was also not anywhere near the playoffs after losing Kemba.
No, exactly.
They made the play-in. I mean,
Yeah.
Cade's got that feel, and the Pistons, I don't remember the stat off the top of my head, but I remember reading it. I think it was James Edwards, the third of The Athletic, about how many close games they lost. And if they had that other piece that, the script is flipped and, all of a sudden they're, the 12th seed and they're hanging around with Toronto, and then you get a little bit healthier. You don't bench Jeremy Grant at the end of the year to make sure you end up with a top 3 spot in the lottery. And I feel like you add Cade Cunningham plus everyone's still healthy, plus an extra year of Killian being healthy, and Isaiah Stewart and Saddiq Bey getting some time with Team USA and growing. I mean, I feel like that's a play-in team to me. Maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
I love this. I love this idea. I love this talk. This is a future pod topic that I cannot wait to get into. I'm so enamored by the possibilities of next season with the Pistons, because they could very much end up being a playoff team. All of a sudden, that first round pick goes to Houston and they don't have it, or they don't make the playoffs, and you're probably getting that talk of, is Dwayne Casey on the hot seat? Is Cade Cunningham not as good as advertised? Is Jeremy Grant not good enough to be a leader on a playoff team? Like, the Pistons, no matter what happens, it's going to be interesting for their trajectory moving forward, because either A, they can make the playoffs and get the top pick, or B, or they can make the playoffs and lose their first round pick, or B, they can miss the playoffs, and then you're going to start to get those questions that teams that can and should and will be good get when they stumble for the first time. And I'm excited for that. I can't wait to get into after the draft, after free agency, getting into the legitimate talks of, is this a playoff team? And right now, I think you look at where the East is at, and it's like, Mike, I think you're 100% right. I think this is a playoff, I think this is a play-in team. I really don't see, assuming that they end up with Cade Cunningham, I really don't see why they shouldn't be.
Yeah. And, maybe I'm overselling how impactful Cade is able to be. And there will certainly be some assimilation that he's going to need into the league. But again, this is the job that Troy Weaver's done, drafted well. You have ready now impact players that are young, plus an excellent signing in Jeremy Grant and a good coach in Dwayne Casey. And it led to the number 1 pick. And it just so happens that this is a transcendent type of talent at the top. This is what you wait for. This is what the Philadelphia process was all for. And it's why so many teams are tanking. It's why the NBA had to change the odds is for stuff exactly like this. It went perfectly. Yeah, I feel like he is that kind of guy. I mean, we'll see. But on paper, it is certainly very, very tantalizing.
And in worst case scenario, you're back in the lottery next year in one of the best drafts in like a decade. So,
that's true.
Wow, that's going to really suck. Oh, no, not another top 5 pick. Oh, please, no, not Imani Bates. I'd hate to have Chet Holmgren for the next 5 years. That sounds awful.
I can't wait for if the Pistons get Cade Cunningham, don't make the playoffs, and everyone's mad again. It's like, God, we're back in the lottery again.
Hey, man. They won't be so mad. They won't be so mad after they see the draft class next year. They really won't. It's going to be a good one.
Loaded.
It's going to be a good one. And you know what? It's kind of fun also to be back in this place where the Pistons are now interesting again for like the first time in forever. Like, we're going to experience the ups and downs of what comes with expectations. We're going to experience the ups and downs of what comes with a potential superstar player, a number 1 pick. So yeah, hey, it's not all going to be great. Trust me, but you have people doubting Luka Doncic right now. So things get weird at a certain point, but like when it's all said and done, I think we're going to look back on this in 10 years and we're going to be like, man, that was a good time. It feels good to get back.
What players are you trading the number 1 pick for?
Like active players right now?
Yeah. Like obviously the Mavs called it off for Luka, of course.
Luka, Zion, Jason Tatum. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but that's about it. I'd need somebody like that right now to trade that number 1 pick. Yeah. because otherwise a more established veteran doesn't do you any good on this team with this roster. It doesn't really fit the timeline, in my opinion. You know, it's kind of like the same thing you saw with Blake Griffin getting traded to Detroit a few years ago, where it's like, oh, wait, I mean, like you're a better team. Yes. But are you in a better situation? No. So I would need somebody young. I'd need somebody who's still probably on their rookie deal and I can offer a supermax to. But other than that, I'm not really all that interested.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else is on that list.
I mean, maybe you make an argument for Devin Booker, whatever, but like, I'm not accepting like, you know, just SGA straight up. I'm not accepting Jaylen Brown like straight up. Like that's not
De'Aaron Fox type.
Yeah, DeAndre. Like that's just not gonna, like, a De'Aaron Fox is like a good player, but like that's not a franchise changing talent by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Hopefully this is the last time that we will be talking about this before the draft, and it probably won't be the last time as we get ever closer, but you know, we can all be hopeful, right? And
July 29th can't come soon enough.
It really can't. And we were saying before the pod, this is the point where everyone is just like, all right, please just start the draft. We're all just endless speculation and who's going to get traded and who's going to get traded for what. And it's just, all right, just have the draft and we'll be able to evaluate everything after that. That's where we need to be right now. Not going to be a whole lot of free agency stuff to talk about with the Pistons because of their roster space. And, you know, that's a testament to some of their excellent young players that they drafted that have morphed into pretty solid NBA players. And two of those young guys are a part of Team USA. They were hanging out with Team USA in Vegas. Saddiq Bey was promoted. Isaiah Stewart did suffer an ankle injury, which we saw that pop up in the Twitter notifications and instantly thought, oh, lovely. Great. We'll talk a little bit about Team USA falling to Mike Brown and the Nigerian national team a little bit. But, fellas, any thoughts on Saddiq Bey being promoted to Team USA?
I mean, it certainly deserves deserves recognition. He got in against Nigeria, but I mean, outside of like recording a steal, I don't even think he had a shot attempt. But it's good that him and Mike's boy Darius Garland were of the group that got called up. It was those two and Calvin Johnson. But I mean, being able to prolong your time and get out on the court with, I mean, he was sharing the court with, I'm trying to think who was out there, but I mean, obviously he was on the court with some great basketball players, and it's only going to continue to benefit him. It's something that he obviously has earned, and you know, it's good for his development. You always hear about those stories of, well, they went to the Olympics together and, you know, they got to go to that training camp and they got to work out together and build a relationship. And, you know, then they don't just go to the Olympics together. Then they end up working out in the off seasons together. And then all of a sudden Saddiq Bey is calling up so-and-so and it's saying, hey, me and Cade, we need that one more piece. Why don't you come be it? And all of a sudden that's how you form your championship team. So it's great that he got that recognition. It's great that he's actually getting a few minutes too. We'll see what happens tonight in Team USA's game against Australia. We'll see how much he gets out on the court. Team USA looking to bounce back after their loss. But it's good. It's great that he's up there. It's a testament, obviously, to his continued improvement that he was of the select group that was called up to the official roster itself. I mean, there was a bunch of other guys that they could have named, you know, someone like Tyler Hero, for example, but they go with, you know, Saddiq, and that just shows, hey, he's continuing to improve. He's catching the eyes of some of the best players and coaches in the league. So it's great news. No other way to shake it.
Yeah. I mean, hey, the Pistons might not have cap space for free agents this year, but they do have a lot of free agent money available next year. And you know who's a free agent? Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Zach LaVine. So yeah, this is great for Saddiq, and it's just more opportunity for both him and Jeremy Grant to start putting together a super team in Detroit and after next season. That's how I look at it. No, I mean, like, really, like, this is nothing but good. 2 players on Team USA. Yes, of course, it's bad that they lost to Nigeria, but from what I understand, and I didn't watch the game, but Jeremy Grant had a good showing. And yeah, I mean, you had the second worst record in the NBA, but you have 3 guys who are associated with the U.S. Olympic team. That can't be anything but a good sign. It means that, yeah, you're young, but you're moving forward. You're working towards something. You have something to show for all that suffering. And right now, that's all Pistons fans really need to see. They need to see that end result rounding into form.
Right. Aaron, you did watch the game, Team USA against Nigeria. Did you have any takeaways from that? Because to me, I mean, it was an exhibition game, and Nigeria shot incredibly well.
Yeah,
it was just like dribble handoff city.
They played awesome. I mean, it was an exhibition game, but they came out and they got the job done. Like, they deserve all the props in the world for that. I mean, you're still going up against great basketball players, even if they weren't, trying their hardest. Like, Nigeria came out and still beat some of the top, 15, 20 basketball players in the entire world. And
Hall of Famers.
Yeah. They deserve a lot of recognition for that. It's a bad look for Team USA, considering you have Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Bam Adebayo, Jeremy Grant. Like, you have all these different guys, and you can't go beat Nigeria, whose roster consists of a few fringe NBA players and then primarily overseas guys. It's bad for Team USA because they should have been able to win that game, even if they weren't playing their best basketball. But it was an ugly loss. But Nigeria definitely earned that win. The Miami Heat Nigeria team, essentially, I think they had 3 or 4 guys. Yeah. And then Bam was on Team USA. But we didn't see any Jahlil Okafor in that game, unfortunately. He was out. I don't know if he was injured or what was going on with him there.
I think he's just bad at basketball.
Wow.
Sorry, Ja, if you're listening.
No, it was either Jahlil Okafor or Precious Achua, and Nigeria went with Achua, who blocked Durant.
Aaron annihilated it.
Aaron, I cannot believe that you've neglected to mention former LeBron trade chip and Detroit Pistons legend Michael Biniget, and Syracuse legend, for what it's worth, my alma mater. Michael Biniget hit basically the game winner over Damian Lillard. SVG's hypothetical trade for LeBron has never looked more relevant than it did the other day. Come on, man. Mike Biniget step back 3 over Damian Lillard. Get out of here. Piston.
Who could have seen that coming?
Oh, I could have. Let me tell you, I've always believed in Michael Biniget. He just needs another shot. Just give him the
holding on to that stock for maybe ever.
Yeah,
finally cash in those chips.
It's a long-term hold with my Eric Devendorf and Johnny Flynn stock.
Good Lord. Good Lord. Okay, I don't even know how to pivot from that. We're just going to talk about fringe Pistons players, some of Aaron's favorite players. All right, go ahead, say it. Steve Blake.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right, here we go.
Nightmares. I mean, wow, the dribbling the basketball off the foot extraordinaire.
I was gonna say Luis Scola was playing for Argentina the other day. The man looks like a silver fox. It's incredible. He's got so much gray in his hair, and all I could think of was, now where is Walter Herman right now? This man needs to be on the floor.
Speaking of basketball players with gray hair, Kevin Love,
yep.
Mike.
Silver Fox. Silver Fox. I think he had 3 minutes and 3 fouls. So
that's called a Giannis Antetokounmpo, where I come from.
That's called
Joel
completely
Anthony
spearheading his whatever trade value is remaining by falling flat into an ocean of bad.
Man, he gave you a Joel Anthony special.
Let's get into arguably the most disappointing topic of the show. Not disappointing, bad. It's just straight bad.
Okay, go right ahead. I mean, I was going to let you just lead right into it.
You know, if we start talking about Steve Blake and all these guys, like, we could do an hour on that alone. So I figured, hey, let's just pull the Band-Aid off. We waited to get into this as our last topic before the NBA Finals talk, but Isaiah Stewart suffers an ankle injury with the select team in the training camp with Team USA. He left the scrimmage. He was the second player from the select team to get hurt. Anthony Edwards got hurt the day before, but we have not heard anything about the Stewart ankle injury yet. Not great, Bob.
No, not good. And then there was a COVID issue as well with Team USA. So now it's just compounding problems. But yeah, I was going to ask, had anybody heard anything? I thought maybe I was out of the loop about the ankle injury, but I have not heard anything.
Silent. I don't like that.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
It does make you concerned a bit, but on the other hand, it depends on what it is. If it's a high ankle sprain, like, okay, all that you got to do is just sit out for the next 8 weeks, and that sucks, but like, it's not something that necessarily, knock on wood, is going to be a long-term, issue.
Well, that's,
I mean, like that, like I remember there was a point in time where people were wondering if Steph Curry would even be able to like stay on the floor because he kept on having those chronic ankle injuries. It was a real problem before 2015. So yeah, of course you never want to see something like an ankle injury, but it could be far worse. It's not a knee injury. It's not a hip injury. It's not a back injury, which are big man killers. But of course, you never want to see that. And the fact that it's been all silent on the injury front either makes you feel like it's really not a big deal or it's really bad. Kind of no in between.
No, that's a fair way to put it. And the whole 8-week thing doesn't sound great when I'm planning the championship parade for the Summer League title. And Isaiah Stewart was going to be a pretty big part of that. So hopefully it's not anything serious. It's not great, though, that we haven't heard anything. Like, I'm surprised we haven't heard anything from at least, like, the beat writers that, have – I would imagine that we would have heard something from at least them by now, even if it wasn't serious. But it's just been dead silent on that front. Hopefully it's nothing too serious because – there's some big plans for Isaiah Stewart. This is a guy that had a really nice rookie season, obviously, so being invited to the Team USA select team, and it just, you never want someone to go down, especially when some things have been falling right for Detroit. This is that bump in the road that you hate to see.
And to not even have a diagnosis. I mean, this was like what, 3-4 days ago?
At least
it was to not have a diagnosis is really weird.
Yeah. I guess we'll stay tuned on that front.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely hoping for the best for Isaiah Stewart, but I guess it's going to swing in one of the wild ends of the spectrum there. If it's either going to be really bad or really good. I mean, I believe Wendy's tweet said that he left the court to get treatment, but that's a little bit ambiguous if it's just ice and tape and whatnot.
What does that mean?
Something right. He's getting treatment. I mean,
yeah. What are they not gonna?
I think
they're not going to do anything. Like, of course.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for the update.
In The Sopranos. I think they said it in The Sopranos and go and throw someone into the lake.
Yeah,
Treatment is a little bit ambiguous.
Oh, Brian Windhorst sadly says, yeah, it turns out they had to put down Isaiah Stewart on the basketball court. They couldn't even take him off. Oh, it's too bad. But when somebody gets a broken leg like that, there's nothing they can do. It's healthier for them just to put him out.
Paul Pierce needing a wheelchair.
Wow.
Go to the bathroom.
That was a different kind of lower body injury. So that was definitely an emergency situation.
Right. That's a crumble to the ground and somebody help me. Just drag me off.
To be fair, we've all had a situation like that at least once in our life where we crumpled down in pain, wanted somebody to take us off the court. So
go on.
I don't think so. I think I want to keep our sponsors, not get rid of them.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Thanks for looking out for the brand.
Unless, of course, we can get Pepto-Bismol money, in which case I'm all in.
I think they're going to sponsor you, only. We'll be fine. Aaron and I will keep the bet online. We'll get a meat box. We'll be fine. You, Pepto-Bismol.
Pepto-Bismol. Hey, we might need a lot of it this season. Who knows? The Pistons are going to be up and down. I'm sure of it.
No. It'll be all fun. Fun. But speaking of all fun, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Please. I was going to try and make a really, really bad segue into our last topic of the NBA Finals. I was going to say, who could probably use some antacid after getting absolutely having a basketball jammed down his throat last night is PJ Tucker. That poor guy got absolutely destroyed by Cam Johnson.
Aaron's boy, Cam Johnson.
Hey,
I'm going to do
the best part about it. I have to say
every single time.
The best part about it, though, was that, it was such an obvious charge. It was, the textbook definition of a charge, and the refs did not call it, which I'm all in for. I think that the charge rule should be thrown to the wayside when something incredibly dope happens on the basketball floor. That's my personal position. Charges are cool. They're fine with me, unless somebody throws down a sick jam, in which case, throw them out the window. I don't want to see a charge called on that, and I'm glad the refs did.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love how all over we are.
It's only going to get worse. As we get more comfortable, that's just kind of what's going to happen. We're just going to devolve more and more. But, PJ Tucker may have got totally yammed on, but he gets the last laugh because the Bucks win game 3 at home. It was not particularly close. Giannis was, let's be honest. A week ago, we didn't know if he was going to play in game 1. He went from doubtful to playing, which James Harden did that too with his ankle, and he was mostly a decoy. But not Giannis. No. He's the most dominant player on the court, as a 2-time MVP should, and brings the Bucks back, and they're now down 2-1. That was an all-time performance for Giannis Antetokounmpo, and that's the kind of performance you expect from your 2-time MVP and arguably the best player on the planet.
2 weeks ago, we thought he might have torn his ACL, might have torn every ligament in his knee. Last night, he just went out and put up the only consecutive 40-point, 10-rebound game in history. The only other guy who's ever done that is some dude named Shaquille O'Neal. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. I think he was a pretty good player back in the early 2000s.
Cavaliers legend, yes.
Yes, that's right. Phoenix Suns legend, keep in mind.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's unbelievable. Only 6 players, I think, in NBA history have ever put up consecutive 40-point games in the NBA Finals. LeBron, Shaq, Jerry West, Rick Barry, and Michael Jordan. And now, Giannis Antetokounmpo. So he's putting his name up in rarefied air. And like you said, Mike, a 2-time MVP should. But the fact that this guy is just so dominant with let's be honest, somewhat of a limited technical skill set. It just really goes like to show you how physically impressive he is. He really is a dominant physical force on the same level as Shaq. And I really hope that the narrative people on Twitter are able to take a step back from their keyboards, take a deep breath, and acknowledge greatness when they see it. Because if you don't appreciate something like this while you have it, you're going to regret it when it's gone. That's how I look at this.
Yeah, he was flat out dominant. And, Drew Holiday, who we talked about before in our last pod, played pretty well. He has not shot the ball exceedingly well, but yesterday he was 8 for 14 and 5 of 10 from deep with 9 dimes. He played pretty well. That was the nice little bounce back performance. But, we said earlier he didn't really have to shoot a million times a game, neither him nor Chris Middleton, and almost nobody needs to when Giannis is that efficient. He was 14 for 23, 13 of 17 from the floor. He had a 41, 13, and 6. No big deal. It's pretty crazy. Aaron, any thoughts on game 4? Heading into game 4, Jasper also gave us the out of he wanted to see how Monty Williams pivot to losing Dario Saric.
I think the Phoenix Suns are going to win game 2. I just want to say that now. I think they have a good chance at taking the victory in game 2. I'm willing to say that this week.
Thank you, Jasper. Thank you so much for that. You're definitely going to be the character of this show. Like, I can just tell, like you got just a character persona to you, and you do a very nice job of sticking with it. But getting back,
we're going to need Pepto-Bismol. Aaron and I are both going to need to get through this podcast.
To get back to what you're asking, my game 4, obviously a lot like Monty Williams back against the wall now, got to make some adjustments. But it's not just him. Like, the players have to make adjustments too. Ayton's got to learn how to play defense without fouling, Giannis or whoever, because he was playing so well, and early on he was dynamite against the Bucks, who just could not stop him. But he got in his own way and was committing some fouls, and then he had to come out of the game and couldn't get back out there, and neither in time nor to get back into a rhythm. And the Suns really missed his presence out there. They need him. I mean, Devin Booker, this should be being talked about more, that he was 3 of 14 from the field.
He was terrible.
10 points. And he's had some monster games, but he's also had a couple of games where he's just not been there. And last night was definitely the worst of it. In an NBA Finals game, your best player going 3 of 14 from the field, shooting 21%, making 1 3-pointer, that has to be talked about more. If it's someone like Giannis having that type of game, you're certainly hearing about it. So obviously those two guys play such a key role. You still got a lot out of Chris Paul yesterday. Jay Crowder had a really nice game. Cam Johnson, phenomenal, as expected. But Booker's got to be better, and Ayton's got to be on the court, because we've seen just how much the Bucks have struggled to stop DeAndre Ayton. So it's those two guys, those two young players, really got to step it up there. And then, how do you stop Giannis? What do you do defensively? Do you go all in on stopping him and conceding more shots on the outside? I mean, what Phoenix was doing yesterday was just collapsing on him and fouling him. But do you try to stop him a little bit more without fouling? I don't really have a great answer for that, because we were just talking about this guy is as imposing as Shaq. He's as dominant as Shaq down low. So it's not going to be easy, but it's the NBA Finals. It's not supposed to be easy. So some big changes needed for the Suns, but you got to give credit where it's due to the Bucks yesterday. Phoenix was right there with them throughout the first quarter, but Milwaukee kind of got it going in the second and then just rode it themselves, adjusted nicely, and got the job done. I thought they were going to win this game at home, big crowd, already down 2-0, backs against the wall, had to get the win. They came out, a great performance for them. And yeah, how about a nice bounce back for Drew Holiday, who has just really struggled to shoot the ball. You mentioned his shooting numbers. It was a good game for him. Giannis was phenomenal, and it didn't take huge performances from really anyone else. I mean, you got 18 from Chris Middleton, but outside of that, 11 points, the next leading scorer. That's a good win for Milwaukee. They played really good defense. They shot the ball well. They converted at the free throw line. That's a great win for them, and I was hoping they would win, so it could be a little bit more of an entertaining series, and got what I wanted. That's a good win for Milwaukee. Excited for Game 4. It's good. It's shaping up to be a good series.
Aaron, I want to quickly answer your question. You said, "What do you do with Giannis?" And you, like you said, there's the Shaq comparison. I think you take a page out of the Larry Brown 04 Pistons playbook if you're the Phoenix Suns right now, and you say, you know what? We can't stop this guy. No one can stop this guy. So let's not try. Let's defend him one-on-one, and let's let the other players around him have to beat you. And last night they did, and that will happen occasionally. But I think if I'm Phoenix, if I'm Monty Williams right now, I'm looking at this and I'm saying my best player had a terrible game. My most important bench player in campaign had a terrible game. And the supporting cast for the Bucks really showed up on top of Giannis dominating. Let's not do that. Let's let the guy who's going to dominate us regardless dominate. Let's focus on everyone else defensively, and let's go forward in this series with the knowledge that overall we have the more complete roster. Overall, we are a better, more even team than the Bucks are, and go from there. I think if you're Monty Williams, you just go one-on-one with Giannis. And yes, of course, if you can help, you bring the help. But overall, you make Drew Holiday, you make Chris Middleton beat you. You make them beat your best defenders one-on-one, two-on-one. And yeah, you take the fact that you've been a great team all season to the end.
I've got two thoughts, and then I'll kick it back to you guys for any other predictions for Game 4, and then for Jasper's deflection of making any sort of pick. Jay Crowder was 6 for 7 from deep. He's very hot and cold, and the fact that the Bucks weathered the Jay Crowder is hot game is a pretty good sign. The second thing is that Frank Kaminsky is not good. I think he got the Dario minutes a little bit, and he, for some reason, forgets he's tall, and I just can't stand watching him play. He is, let's see, how tall is he? Yeah, he's 7 foot, but he doesn't play like a 7-footer. So they're going to have to find a way to shore up the bench. Campaign was 3 for 10 shooting as well. He was not particularly good off the bench either, and I touted the Suns' depth as somewhat of a positive thing. So naturally they go out and lay a giant egg. But if you're the Bucks, you, on top of getting the win, which obviously is very nice, I think you should. There's a lot to take away. Yeah, Devin Booker didn't have a good game, but the Saric injury is a big deal, and I think they started to figure some things out to get Ayton into trouble, and they're going to have to make him adjust as well so that he's able to stay on the court, like you guys had alluded to there. So I'm very excited for Game 4. I think it's going to be tied going back to Phoenix 2-2. I think the Suns are going to get their home cooking going again. I think they figured some things out, and Giannis is still unstoppable, and we're going to be in for basically a best of 3 after this. Aaron, any prediction?
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I think this gets tied up, and then it's a best of 3. Milwaukee is in a rhythm right now. They looked really good. It might take one more game of adjustments for Phoenix to try to figure out the best way to go about this. Hopefully it's a little bit of a closer game 4, but I'm with you on Milwaukee evening up this series.
I disagree. I think that the Suns take game 4, and I'm actually willing to go on a limb this week because I got the answers. No, I actually got the answers to what I was looking for from last week, which is, what are you doing with those Dario Saric minutes? And my hope is that because he's I think that you've seen enough right now. Game 2, he played 1 minute. They won by 10. Last night, he played what, 15 minutes, I want to say? They lost by 20. And he was minus 12 in those minutes that he played.
You're talking about Frank.
I'm talking about Frank Kaminsky. I think Monty Williams learned his lesson last night. You can't play Frank Kaminsky. And unfortunately, that might mean that you have to ride your starters a little more hard. But from my perspective, yeah, I think the answer is pretty clear. You cannot play Frank Kaminsky in this series. And that's tough with Giannis, but it is what it is because for all his size, nobody slowed down Giannis Antetokounmpo last night, and I don't think anyone really can on this Suns roster. So you need to put out your best team defensively, not in terms of guarding Giannis, but in terms of guarding everyone else. And personally, I look at it, I think Monty Williams is a really, really good coach. I think he should have been coach of the year, and I think he'll prove it in this game 4. I don't think you'll see very much of Frank Kaminsky. I think you'll see more of that small ball. I think you'll see less emphasis on guarding Giannis and more emphasis on guarding Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday and attempting to force Brook Lopez off the floor with small ball shooting. And yeah, I also don't think both Cam Payne and Devin Booker, who arguably are actually their 2 most important offensive players, which is insane to say about Cam Payne, but I don't think they're going to play as badly. So, yeah, I think we're going back to Phoenix. I think it'll be 3-1 going back into Phoenix. I feel very confident in the Suns to make the adjustments.
I like it. I don't agree with it, but I could certainly see it happening. I mean, these are very evenly matched teams, and they're in the finals for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Fellas, that was a very good podcast. We covered a lot. We had plenty of laughs. Maybe we'll have a new sponsor in Pepto-Bismol at some point. We're going to need it if Jasper keeps being his character. But we got to love it, right, Aaron? I mean, this is a lot of fun.
This is why we brought all 3 of us together for the fun shows, a lot of laughs, and a new era. New era for the Palace of Pistons podcast, and a new era for the Detroit Pistons coming shortly with the addition of Cade Cunningham. Mike, I know we like to end the show with some sort of tie into Cade Cunningham, so there it is for me.
Right. It's
hey,
better than Mitch McGary.
Wait. But I knew you'd sneak it in there. I thought about it when we brought up Steve Blake. I'm like, do I say it here? I said, no, Mike will get it at some point.
Don't worry. I got you. Really, the whole wraparound with that Thunder trade we were talking about like a few months back, leading all the way back to Mitch McGary. I couldn't plan that any better. That was about as perfect as I could have possibly planted it.
All I have to say is that, yes, Cade is better than Mitch McGary at basketball, but I've never seen that man throw a strike. And Mitch McGary, I've seen him throw a strike. So it's all a matter of perspective, right? Wow. Hey, bowling, basketball, they both start with a B, but they're very different sports. That's all I have to say.
This is why people subscribe and listen to see if Mitch McGary is or isn't better than Cade Cunningham at basketball. This is the killer analysis.
Oh, my God.
This is the killer analysis. Well, gentlemen, thank you all for joining me on another edition of the Palace of Pistons podcast. Again, part of the Believe Podcast Network. Thank you very much to our sponsor, BetOnline. Of course, if you want to get started on betting, you can head on over to the website or use your mobile device and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit with BetOnline. For Aaron Johnson and Jasper Apollonia, I am Mike Anguilano. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Palace of Pistons Podcast, and we will see you all next time.